Because at doTERRA, we know the same care and attention, as well as the same commitment to only provide the very best, is not unique to us. They're the same qualities you employ when taking care of those you love the most.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see we've got so many people on at the moment, 24, 25 people so far. Welcome to you all. Welcome to our TVE Global webinar. You've got me tonight. Lisa's, I think, in the middle of traveling. She's coming back from Spain. Most of you remember that she was over there last week, and she's traveling back tonight. She says she's to avoid Storm Dennis. Whether she will or not, who knows, but so like I said, you're stuck with me. So we will be obviously introducing you to Rachel in a short while. In the meantime, of course, we have our normal news and bits and bobs. So let me just bring up my slide here. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay. Oops, run that back a little bit. Okay, so welcome to our team call. As always, we like to start with giving some recognition so far for the enrolments that have been done in February, and obviously a slightly shorter month than usual, but boy, have some people been really motoring. To start with, we have got on 3 enrolments in February. We have Alison Thomas, Claudia Berend Hermes, or Herms, I do apologise if I've got that wrong. With 4 enrolments, we've got Annette Ahido, Kirsty Lucius, and Lisa Burke. Even though she's out there in Spain, she's still working hard. With 5 people enrolled in February, we've got Neil Young, and with a whopping 6 people, we've got Victoria Gotham. So congratulations to you. But top of the shop by some way, and 13 of these have come in this particular week over in Germany. Congratulations to Michael Snyder. Apparently, I'm not sure if Michael's on tonight, but that was done whilst Michael's not been feeling too well. Okay, so I don't know what it's going to be like if he's feeling better. I'm not sure if Michael is on this evening. Are you on, Michael? Let's have a quick look. I don't think he is. He's probably not well. I'm sure he hasn't got much. He's probably completely out of energy after getting through 13 people on this week. So absolutely brilliant stuff. Congratulations to all concerned. Now, for those of you that certainly didn't hear me talk about this last week, this lady is all in our, all of us on this call, this lady is in our success upline, if you like. This is Elise Sedderby, who is from the States. But as you can see, she's over here on from the 19th to the 21st of March. It's a 3-day event for those of you that can either get to or are local to the Heathrow area in London. And as she says here, she's going to guide you through for 3 days of intensive training, talking about a back to basics training. Now, there is a URL at the bottom if you're really, really quick. That's as short as we could get it because it's on Everbright as well. So, oh, sorry, Eventbrite, I should say. So that's as short as we could get it down. You can go and search Elise Sedderby on there, and I'm sure you'll find that particular event if you are interested in booking on that particular event. Now, also, some of you would have seen today, no doubt, that quite a few people were posting this online, that Emily Wright is coming over from the United States to Europe at the European Conference on the 8th to the 9th of May. That's the Elevate Conference in Rome. Would highly recommend you get there. It did say today, you may well have caught it, that there's not that many tickets left. Now, last year in Germany, they certainly didn't sell out, and they didn't sell out the year before in London, and they had big arenas. They look like they're going to sell out on this particular one. That gives you some idea of the growth of doTERRA. So they're looking like they're selling out. Please don't leave that too long before booking for that particular event if you want to join us in Rome in only 2 or 3 months' time. It's going to come around really quickly. Now, for those of you who also wish to join us on our online classes this week, between ourselves and Lisa, we do 3 online presentations. We do Tuesday at 7 p.m, Thursday at 11 a.m, and Saturday at midday. They're all GMT, of course. And if you wish to, rather than doing a presentation yourself online, just simply get your team members to log in to, or not team members, your prospects, I should say, but your team members can use this resource to join us at learntheessentials.info, and that room is open 20 minutes before the start. So make sure you get your prospects there, and obviously we'll make sure you have a professional presentation done of the business. So that is it so far for this evening. We're really going to use the rest of the evening because we're really pleased to say that we've got Rachel on with us this evening, and I'm not going to, I probably don't need to give her too much of an introduction, but she of course heads up, or was the founder of the Cambridge College of Holistic Health, her own business that she started, where she gives accreditations as well for people who want to study and find out so much more about essential oils, of course. So I'm now going to pass you over. I'm just going to stop sharing this. Just make sure you're online. Can you hear us okay, Rachel? I can see your presentation. Are you there, Rachel? Let me know you can hear me okay. You're on mute still. Let me unmute you.
Can you hear me okay now?
Gotcha. No,
yeah, I was muted, Andy, you muted me.
I thought I'd do that just in case.
Oh, okay. I'm live. Please do not swear.
I did send you a little message earlier, and we're doing this live, so we'll put you on the spot. Did you want to do, if we've got time afterwards, did you want to do a bit of a Q&A with anybody?
If we've got time, I don't mind people putting questions in the chat box maybe, and I can answer them that way, definitely.
Yeah, well, if you want to do that as we're going through, so either you can dip into that, or of course the easiest way is that we just come up at the end and see how we go. So over to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. It's always lovely to see all these people I know and faces and things like that. So I'm going to do a screen share now. Hopefully you will all be able to see that. Let me just go on to slideshow from current slide. There we go. Hopefully you can all see me okay. Right, so I thought today I would talk about the foundations for confidently working with essential oils, because it's great that we get this business training, and it's great that we have these amazing testimonials and things like that, but there are quite a lot of commonalities that we see, I think, because I know I certainly do, and I hear about a lot of people coming up with things. For example, you know, the ingesting issue. How safe is it really to ingest? You know, what's the safety with contraindications? I know, Izzy, you mentioned, you know, when can you use something, when can you not use something? Hi there, my lovely. You know, what's the safe dilution ratios and things like that for people? You know, when can you and when can't you give somebody a higher dose or not a higher dose? Do you have to be qualified to hand out samples? Do you have to be insured? Do you have to, you know, have what is you know, what's going on? And then also some recipes. You know, some people say, oh, what can I use for this, what can I use for that? Now obviously, you know, we've only got a limited amount of time, and there's a whole host of things here. So what I've tried to do is just kind of touch on things generally, and obviously we've got some amazing knowledgeable people online here today as well. So if ever I always say this in all my classes, if ever anybody has got anything they want to share, please unmute yourself and chip in with your knowledge too, because we are all helping each other here. You know, I stand here doing what I do, but I stand alongside you all on an equal keel, because we've all got knowledge in similar things. So please do that. So the foundations for confidently working with essential oils, if we don't have these foundations, it can put us in quite a vulnerable position, and we might not really know how to answer certain questions. And with the best will in the world, obviously we know the oils are amazing, and we know that we want to be using them to help people feel better, and also hopefully to improve our income. But we don't really want to be disingenuous, and we don't want to be doing it at the detriment of our own, what's the word I'm looking for? the confidence that we have in ourselves and our professionalism. We don't want that to be jeopardized just because we're saying something that we think we ought to be saying, but actually we don't know if it's actually what we should be saying. So, as I've said here, customer loyalty equals trust in you and the product, and confidence in you and the product. So if you have confidence in yourself and you trust your knowledge in the product, then you know you're onto a winner, absolutely. And hopefully this is going to give people a little bit more of that feeling of confidence. Now, the first thing I'm going to say is natural does not always mean safe or effective. Just because we see the word natural, it doesn't mean anything. You know, a lot of marketing companies use that, thinking that if they put it on, people are going to buy it. And yes, it works. But unfortunately, with people's health, just because something comes from nature, it doesn't mean that it's going to be completely safe. I mean, I've put 2 examples here. Aspirin, you probably know this, but aspirin comes from the bark of the willow tree. Now, that treats inflammation. It's an amazing painkiller. It affects coagulation of blood and it thins stomach lining. So using aspirin from the willow tree is a natural resource which has been compounded and made into the little aspirin tablets we know today. But obviously it doesn't always mean it's safe, and it doesn't always mean it's the most effective thing to be using. The same can be said of penicillin. It grows on foods like breads. An elderly couple ate a can of soup in 2005, it was documented, and it actually had an element of the penicillin growing on it, but also the fact that penicillin is amazing at killing lots of bacteria, but also it produces harmful poisons like mycotoxins. And so therefore this can cause severe situations like muscle tremors. It can actually cause an infection called zygomycosis as well, which actually forms your blood to clot and can starve your cells of oxygen to the point that they die. So again, penicillin, you know, some people are allergic to penicillin. It's natural. It doesn't always mean it's safe, and it doesn't always mean it's the most effective thing to be using. And the same can be said exactly as with our essential oils. You know, there are alternatives that we can think of using instead to get the best outcome. As I've put here, if we didn't challenge things, discoveries would never happen. So, you know, I'm not saying to just you're not totally confident, but do your due diligence and do your research before you do recommend things to people. And we have a whole host of things that we can get information from. I've put a couple of books in here today as well that I would highly recommend, which I'm going to show you in a minute as well. But we've got to remember we have an awful lot of testimonials that we get from people, and those are amazing to hear. Some really great testimonials. I don't know if any of you have seen the film called The Secret. I would definitely recommend you watch it if you haven't already seen it. But it's a story. It's not going to be typical for everyone. I just use the example here of Kathy Goodman, who was diagnosed with breast cancer on November 23rd. 3 months later, she was cancer-free. She had no chemo and no radiation. That's an amazing outcome, but it's her story. It's not going to be typical for everyone, even if they follow what she has done. And that's why I'm saying that we hear these amazing testimonials, but they're not going to be the same for everybody. So we need to make that quite, you know, honest and open when we do recommend things to people. We always look for the best possible outcome with the least adverse effects. That's what we're looking for here. As I've said, we get testimonials all the time. Night sweats I've been having for 3 or 4 years, few days leading up to my period, completely disappeared using essential oils. Cramps had gone within 2 to 3 days after using essential oils. And then there was a nurse's testimonial as well that said she has no serious illnesses because she infuses essential oils, and they've helped save her and other people. So we know they're amazing. They really enhance our lives, but they're not always typical for everybody. So one of the things that I think is a really relevant thing to have, knowledgeable thing to have, because we see this all over, we see the dilution ratios, and from one resource to another they can be completely different. So this is one that I've worked with since 1997 and beyond, actually before then, but professionally since 1997, and it's served me well. Haven't gone far wrong with it. I'm always to err on the side of caution, and I'm always a believer in starting little and monitoring rather than going the whole hog in. Using a much smaller dose and monitoring people, if they have a positive outcome with a small dose, then keep it at that dose. If they don't, and it's safe to do so, increase it. And that's why I put this recommended essential oil dilution ratios chart here. This is my own that I use. It's out of my little book that dates back to 97. And you'll see that I've got from 0.5 to 5% dilution ratios on here. So the 0.5% will be from birth to 1 year. Obviously, you've got to be really careful what oils you use with them. We're going to talk about that in a minute. With babies, you know, there's a very small amount of oils you can use, but I exposed my twins to essential oils from literally being a few weeks old. And it was amazing. I massaged them every evening I used calendula as my carrier oil, and I used lavender. And every single night without fail, when I got them changed into the little baby goes for bed, they would have a massage with lavender and calendula oil, and their skin was beautiful. They never had nappy rash, and they luckily, after they'd had a bit of chiropractic treatment, they slept really well also. Now again, that's not going to be typical of every baby, but that's just what happened with me. It's another testimonial, but I use these dilution ratios. Now I've made a free PDF wall chart of this as well, made it look a bit prettier for those of you that might want to print it out and have it as a laminated or something like that, stick it on your wall. And if you go to the website cchh.co.uk, you'll see it'll say free downloads, and there's a couple of free downloads on there. One of them is the dilution chart, and that's a copy of this here. So definitely take a note, because it's not okay to give somebody who is an adult and healthy the same ratio as it is to give somebody who's maybe very vulnerable or elderly, or maybe somebody who's pregnant. It's not the same. It doesn't work that way. But you'll notice at the end with the 5% line that that's a therapeutic dose that you can have safely daily, and it's a therapeutic dose. Now you can go way higher than that, you know, but I'm sticking with this because this is safe. This is the normal levels for therapeutic use daily, and this is what I would be recommending in a blend to be making up for people. That's if you're using on a short-term basis. Normally, I would use 3 to 4% daily. Children 11 plus, and anybody would fall into this middle bracket here, and that would be used on a daily basis. So if I'm making up my massage blends, this is the ratios that I would use them to. This isn't what I'm talking about having as a daily basis altogether. So I'm not saying that if you're having something therapeutic, then you can only take 5 drops in 5 mils once a day. What I'm saying is this is what I use as a chart when I'm making up my own massage blends. So if I have a 10 ml bottle of carrier oil and I want to make up a therapeutic blend for somebody, then I will put 10 drops of an oil in it. If I've got a 50 ml bottle, I'll put 50 drops of an oil in it, or a blend of oils. So I think that's a really important thing to first of all note. And also men and women react differently as well, and the size of people are different. It's just like any medication. If somebody's larger, then they can tolerate more. So, you know, bear that in mind as well when you're looking at things. Another thing I wanted to talk about was contraindications. Now, anyone that's done my course, the emotional course, will know what contraindications are already. But I've put the definition here. It's basically when there is a medical reason for not doing a particular treatment, or in this case, using a particular oil. Now, the thing with contraindications is it is not a negative word. It's not a bad word. It's not a word we ought not to be using in our business. It's actually a really good word to be using, because it shows that we are professional, and it shows that we need to be trusted because we're taking it seriously. Essential oils are amazingly powerful. We know this already, but it works both ways. They can be amazingly powerful and they can be harmful. And so therefore, the beauty of essential oils is that there is always an alternative we can use for people. We can always recommend an alternative. That's why essential oils are so amazing. And the modifications can be really pleasant modifications. I've put a few options here. There is a vast amount of alternatives you can use. That's why I've put my wonderful book here. I actually didn't realize I've got 2 copies of this book. I was looking in my bookshelf today. For some unknown reason, I've got 2 copies. So I don't know why that is. I must love it so much. But it's this book, Julia Lawless, is a really good book because she talks about the the chemical composition of essential oils, but she also looks at alternatives you can use instead. And there's lots of alternatives you can use. Like I say, there's some examples here. And I've also said that where an alternative treatment or oil can be used instead, for example, if somebody has high blood pressure, I always use this example, it's really boring, but if somebody has high blood pressure, then obviously rosemary is not going to be an oil of choice for them. But, and if the reason you were going to recommend rosemary was because they had something like brain fog, for example, then it doesn't matter, because you don't need to use rosemary, because although it works on brain fog, so does peppermint oil. So you can use peppermint instead. And peppermint actually can slow your heart rate down. It can calm you down. It's a cooling oil. So therefore it's going to have benefits to it. Now, obviously it depends on the level of blood pressure that people have got. So you need to be mindful of that when you're talking to people. If it's just very mild, then it's absolutely fine to have a look at alternatives. But if it's extreme, then you need to be really careful at what you give them. But there are so many resources available where you can find this information out. But I've put a few examples here of oils that have the aroma swap, basically. So if, for example, you want to recommend peppermint, but it's maybe a child who has sensory overload issues and maybe feels a little bit too overwhelmed by that intensity of peppermint, then a really lovely alternative to use instead is spearmint. A lot of kids love spearmint because it's a lot sweeter than peppermint. It smells kind of almost sweety, as in, like, you know, sweets, mints, and it's far more gentler. So there's always alternatives you can use instead. Things, for example, like clary sage, you know, that is quite an intense smell, is clary sage. And if you're using it for pain relief issues, then you can consider lavender. Clary sage is also highly, highly sedative. On a verge with vetiver. Vetiver is also highly sedative. So sometimes you might find that if somebody reacts heavily to clary sage, they could use vetiver instead, and vice versa. If they react to vetiver, they can use clary sage instead. If either of those isn't doing, then use something like cedarwood. So here you can see vetiver is a tree oil. It's a very, very, what's the word I'm looking for now? A grounding oil. It's very supportive. Somebody's got a lot of emotional instability, and then vetiver is going to be a really good oil for people that have a lot of anxiety and a lot of their energy is in this part of the body, and they shallow breathe a lot. They're very panicky. They're very snappy, and they fly off the handle. Vetiver is a really good oil to be using, but as I've said, it's highly sedative. And so if somebody doesn't want to be so sleepy, and the same can be said for clary sage, that is very similar as well, then using a different tree oil, for example, cedarwood, it works far gentler. It's also very grounding and very stabilizing. It's a tree oil, so therefore we know it's very supporting, but it's not quite as sedative as something like vetiver. So therefore you can use an alternative. That's why oils are so amazing where contraindications are basically when you're looking at them, when you're considering them. Izzy, I know you mentioned a question on contraindications, so if I haven't answered that, then please put it in the little chat box so I can see, so I can make sure that I have answered it, or ask at the end and I'll certainly go on to it if not. But again, wintergreen, or if you're on heparin or warfarin blood thinners, then wintergreen shouldn't be used, which is really annoying because that's in deep blue, and deep blue is amazing for pain relief. But we also have other oils that are amazing for pain relief: helichrysum, frankincense. All of these are really lovely for pain relief too. So depending on the reason why you can't use that essential oil, there is always an alternative. And that's why I'm recommending the Encyclopedia of Essential Oils, not because I'm affiliated to it or anything at all. The one on screen is more updated. This is my original version. It's because in the book, she has recommendations of alternatives you can use. So obviously there's a million and one different reasons why you might not be able to use a certain oil, and so for me to list all of those on here would have been kind of nigh on impossible to have listed them all and the reasons why you can't use them. There are generalizations which I can list quite happily, and I'll make a PDF for that if you want me to. I can make generalizations on, for example, if you have high blood pressure, these are the ones you shouldn't be using. If you have epilepsy, these are the ones you shouldn't be using. I can do that, and I can easily put one of those together, but a lot of that information can be found in this essential oils book as well. So that's contraindications. Also the issue of digesting. Now, I have said to many people before I was introduced to doTERRA, originally by Nathan and Rebecca Bowles, in the early 2000s, kind of 2000 and, what was it, 2014, no, something like that, 2014 I think it was, when they'd been in about a year. And when Rebecca mentioned the word ingesting, I completely switched off, because I just thought, absolutely not, I'm not interested. That's you know, it's just disgraceful that you're even saying that. Then I revisited it a few years later when it started coming up again. I kept seeing it and thinking, you know, I've got to research this because people are mentioning it. So what we need to look at with ingesting is basically the facts. How is risk perception determined? We need to look at the risks and we need to look at the benefits. That's what we do in any sort of medication. We look at the medication and its benefits, and we look at the side effects, and we see which one outweighs the other and whether or not it's going to be a good decision to give to that person that particular medication. So what is the perceived control? Can we control the risk? Is it something that we think we can control? Do we trust the source of our information? What are the risks versus the benefits? Which one outweighs the other? Is it something where we can actually see the risks? Can the risks be reversed? Can we see the risks building up over time? For example, if we use something like codeine, one of the risks is it can give us constipation. So that's something that's quite easy to monitor. You can, you know, if you become constipated, you can be pretty aware of it. Another thing with a lot of anti-inflammatories is that it can give you skin infections, you know, skin irritations. So therefore, you know, that is something we can see. Now, if we ingest an essential oil, is that something that we can see? Can we monitor the risk to see if it's having a reaction on us or not, an adverse reaction or not? And also, are we familiar with doing this practice, and how does it affect us personally? Because as I said at the beginning, we are all unique and we are all individual. And if someone was to go to the doctors with depression and be described Prozac and sing the praises of it, someone else was to go and be described Prozac and have the most amazingly scary experiences and psychosis. It's the same drug treating the same issue with two entirely different people, and essential oils are no different. So therefore, have we used the oils in that way before? Are we familiar with how we respond to them, and are we comfortable with that? So these are things that we need to be questioning when we do it for ourselves, but also when we recommend it to other people. Now, one of the things that made me look at the ingesting issue was because I've said this before to people on my course, so forgive me if you've been on it and you're hearing me again, go and get coffee or something. But I actually was ingesting oils without even realizing it, because two essential oils here in particular, two products rather, Colpam IBS capsules actually have 0.2 ml of pure peppermint oil in them, and lavender calms have 80 milligrams of pure lavender oil in them. I was using both of these. One was for IBS and one was for anxiety and sleeping. And so clearly I was ingesting oils and I wasn't even aware of it. However, I was ingesting them encapsulated in a capsule. And that's where I'm going to come back to in a minute. But if we see here, France and Germany are just two of many countries around the world that actually use essential oils internally. They're actually in a number of their pharmaceutical products that they prescribe to people and recommend to people. So they are, you know, there's different schools of thought in different areas. It doesn't make the issue any different. We're all human beings. We're all made up the same. So it doesn't make that any different. But it just means that it's more accepted in certain countries and less in other countries. Sometimes it's a question of, can it affect your gut in a negative way? Well, ingesting essential oils can actually help dysbiosis, which is a microbial imbalance in the gut. So people that experience this condition can quite often have frequent gas, frequent bloating, cramps, diarrhea, kind of a similar thing to IBS really. And actually ingesting oils, for example, peppermint oil up here, can actually help with that. But what we've got to remember is that oil and water do not mix. And so I'm sorry for those of you that put your peppermint oil in the morning in your glass of water and you drink it. I'm not saying don't do that. Those of you that put lemon oil in water and drink that, again, I'm not saying don't do that. But what I'm saying is there is nicer ways of doing it using something that's going to help the internal absorption of those oils much better. And that's by diluting them in lipids or sweeteners. So for example, things like raw honey or just simple syrup or coconut oil, and actually taking it orally that way, putting your drop of oil in it and taking it that way is a better way of taking it. And it also protects the throat lining as well. Obviously you're getting the additional benefits with the raw honey and the coconut oil, you're getting those additional benefits as well. But it actually acts as an emulsifier, so it mixes the oil together much better for actually taking it orally. But as you can see, on a kind of like a more acceptable level, we can see that essential oils are being used here, and they're in capsules, they're in veggie capsules. And the reason, for any of you that heard me speaking a couple of weeks ago in the other group, I spoke about absorptions of essential oils, and the way that we take them can affect how we absorb them. Many drugs are absorbed in different ways and at different levels, and I've put this slide here that was already in the other one, but I know we have different people in this group as well. If we actually have drugs given to us intravenously, then that's 100% absorption. If we actually inhale them, we're getting 70 to 80% absorption. If we take them orally, then that's actually 30% absorption on an approximate level. So for example, if we take 300 milligrams of a drug orally, then actually only 84 milligrams of that drug is being absorbed, because the rest of it is being destroyed by the liver and the gut when it gets into the stomach as well. And topically, the least absorption really is 1 to 10%. However, all essential oils do get absorbed into the bloodstream, and obviously there's that capability of crossing the blood-brain barrier, which is why they are so appealing to be used. But on this subject of metabolism of drugs and how we take them, I've got this example here as well, because in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the best way of orally having essential oils is by having them in these veggie capsules. I've put an example up there. I know that we can get them from the essential oil company that come to a lot of the conferences and things like that. That's where mine are from. But these I have found, because I've had quite a lot of people ask me about slow release capsules. And these up here from a company called aromareadyproducts.com, they produce both vegetarian, vegan and non-vegetarian, and gelatin free as well. And they also produce slow release capsules. So that means that actually they'll reach the intestines before the oil gets released, which is really what we're looking at happening for the best absorption levels. So in my opinion, if you do want to take oils orally, ingesting them, then this is the only way I would take them. That's why on a daily basis, taking the doTERRA LLV and things like that, they are encapsulated, and I think it's the best way of taking them personally. Even the Zengest, which is amazing for, you know, indigestion and stomach issues, I would still be taking that with a capsule rather than drinking it. Now, I know, again, we've got those testimonials from other people. I know that Dave absolutely swears, Dave Williams swears by taking his Zengest. I know a lot of other people have had testimonials where they've come off those proton pump inhibitors as well. But this is just my personal opinion, that the best way to take essential oils, if you want to take them orally, is by taking them in the veggie capsules. Because if you take medication orally, it can actually sit in the stomach for 30 to 45 minutes. It has to go through that. It's called first pass metabolism. It has to have a whole host of places it visits before it actually gets into the intestines and can actually start being absorbed and doing its goodness. And so therefore, if you have something like these slow release capsules, you're still getting the amazing therapeutic benefits of the essential oil, but you're not going to lose a lot of those benefits, and it's not going to affect other areas, or it's not going to just be excreted out without having the actual benefits of it. So that's my recommendation on ingesting. But also it's worth noting that medical ingestion is not flavour enhancing. You know, we ought not to be looking at these just as a flavour enhancer, because when we buy flavour enhancers from the supermarket, you know, we buy drinks that have been flavoured with flavourings, or we even have products on the shelves that say they've got essential oils in them. They are food grade essential oils, so they're very, very different to therapeutic grade essential oils. They are more like flavour enhancers rather than therapeutic oils, and so therefore they're not as intense, they're not as strong. And as we know, doTERRA are, you know, doubly intense because of the amazing purity and the amazing quality of them, and so they're not something that we just should be, you know, playing around with willy-nilly, basically. Again, I know some people make chocolates with mint in and things like that, and that's entirely, you know, that's something for you to make yourself, and I'm not saying to stress about it, but I'm saying that there's no real therapeutic benefit there. You're not really going to get much of the benefit because you lose so much of the therapeutic quality of essential oils when you ingest them anyway, and by chewing them with something and taking them with something that's going to get digested into the body, into the stomach, there's just not a whole heap of essential oil left at the end of the day to treat you on a therapeutic level. The one time where I would take intense essential oils on a regular basis would be if I was treating a specific condition. For example, I've put here something like the flu bomb, where you're using it in short term to treat something specific and something medical. So just taking a load of essential oils for the sheer hell of it, in my opinion, isn't the most sensible thing to be doing, because it's like you're not going to see the benefits of it when you really do need it. Obviously, when you take medication like the LLV, that's something that you're needing on a regular basis. It's got lots and lots of benefits to it. It's got vitamins in there, it's got minerals in there. That's a different situation. I'm talking about putting the essential oils either orally through in water or putting them in the actual veggie caps. Make them for something specific and therapeutic. So that's the that's kind of about the ingestion. Now, somebody else asked about menopause, and I'm really sorry, I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Tracy Etherington, I think it was, that maybe mentioned it. But the recommendation, she just asked if there was any protocol recommendations for people going through menopause and hormonal issues. So there's 3 products that I would recommend on a regular basis, as well as making up a spray for hot flashes, or flushes as I call them. First of all is the phytoestrogen complex. We know all these already. I'm just kind of revisiting it because it was asked. So the phytoestrogen complex is kind of, in a way, a natural alternative to HRT. It's got an isoflavone in there that acts, it's got estrogenic activity in it, and so therefore it works on estrogen levels in the body. And so taking one of these in the morning and one of these at night, alongside the doTERRA bone nutrient complex, again, that's going to really help. It's got vitamin D levels, really good levels of vitamin D in there, D2 and D3 in particular. I'm excessively low in D3, and when you are low in D3, you also experience pain much more as well, and it's also got better calcium absorption levels in there too. So it's really good to be taking that, again, 2 in the morning and 2 at night. And then throughout the day, the beautiful Claricalm, which has got this whole host of oils that make it the most effective synergistic blend. In particular, it's got things like clarisage in there, which we mentioned earlier, amazing for stomach cramps. You can actually apply that directly onto your the lower belly area and around your back. Really relaxing, very anti-inflammatory, very pain relieving. It's combined with lavender as well, which again is really good for pain relief, very calming. Ylang ylang is amazing oil for calming down any anxiety and mood swings, anything like that. Bergamot, again, is a really good oil for working on you if you're feeling particularly low at that time of month as well. Bergamot works on your oxytocin levels and your serotonin levels in your body. Oxytocin is I call it the kind of cuddle hormone. It's kind of like the trust bonding chemical in the brain and the body, and that's why we have oxytocin. We produce oxytocin when we're pregnant, because it helps with that bonding that we have with the baby, and also if we cuddle, it releases very similar hormones as well. And so bergamot is a beautiful oil to be using, which is also in the Claricalm for that time of the month. If you're literally like someone who just goes, don't touch me, don't come near me, don't talk to me, then bergamot is a really good oil to be using. So we've got some beautiful oils there. Geranium, I know that Deb Williams asked about adaptogens. Geranium is an adaptogen, and also marjoram is, and frankincense is as well. And so if something is adaptogenic, it goes to where there's imbalance in the body and creates balance in that area. So things like hormonal imbalances, geranium and marjoram are 2 amazing oils to be using. And I've got a throughout the night blend here as well, which also has geranium in, and this is for people that are suffering with hot flushes at night time. I have a little fan that I actually have by my bed, and I've actually got one here as well that which I have and I work with. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a literally tiny USB fan. I know that's not essential oils, but I love my little fan. I have it plugged in and I have my diffuser behind me, so the blowing relaxes and calms me. I have the diffusing oils behind me and that just circulates. It's just such a lovely thing to have. And the throughout the night spray is 50 mils of water and 50 mils of witch hazel, and then 11 drops of geranium, 10 drops of clary sage, 7 drops of lemon and 2 drops of peppermint. That is a really good blend to be using. I hope I've written that right, because I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there working that out and then looking at the dilution chart to see if it actually matches. So if it doesn't, don't have a go at me. I'm very tired of working all day today. But if I've got that wrong, I will put the right one up. But geranium is, as I've said, it's an adaptogen, so it's really good for any kind of imbalances, hormonal imbalances, anything like that. Clary sage, I've already spoken about, again, very good for panic and calm and feelings of inflammation and irritation. And then we've got lemon and peppermint, very soothing, very cooling, not too much peppermint because we need to be staying away from stimulants if we are going through perimenopause or menopause. And so therefore we including caffeine, but also using stimulants on a regular basis. Even things like peppermint can be sometimes too stimulating, but it's very cooling. And so that's why we include the peppermint and the lemon there as well. I mentioned avoiding stimulants and also cut down sugar, because they are two things as well that can really exacerbate issues with going through the menopause. I hate to say cut down sugar because I love custard donuts, I love my wine, but it's one of those things where, again, benefit versus risk, you know, weigh them up and make your decision. Now, I do not proclaim to be a menopause specialist, but this amazing lady is here, Vicky Eade. She's a beautiful soul, as we all are in this company, and she knows her stuff on hormones and menopause. So if anybody wants to get in touch with her, she is going to be creating a course. She's doing it at the moment, creating a course similar to my emotional aromatherapy one for anyone that's interested in learning more about hormones and menopause. So get in touch with her. She's one of the graduates, I call them, from the Cambridge College, so she's one to get hold of. She really knows this stuff, but I know a lot of you know your things too, so please share what you know and I'll happily promote you as well. So Michelle, lovely Michelle, mentioned exam stress, asking for a friend, exclamation mark. So I don't know if she meant she was asking for herself or if it really was for a friend. But exam stress with children, this is what it's all about. And this is what Michelle was meaning. Kids that get stressed. So 2 oils that I recommend time and time again. I mean, I have my lime here all the time. I absolutely love lime essential oil, and I love basil as well. Oh, I have to smell it. 2 essential oils that are absolutely amazing for if you're studying, if you do an awful lot of brain work, if you have exams coming up and you just can't retain that information, you've literally got brain overload. So I'm not just talking about exams here, but I'm just talking about anybody that works with numbers, works with figures, works, you know, does an awful lot of brain work. Then this is something that I would really recommend. On a regular basis, 2 drops of each in your diffuser. Lime and basil are the most amazing, they just go together so well, they marry so well together. This is why they're putting a lot of perfumes, lime and basil. Jo Malone made a lime and basil perfume, and it's because they marry so well together. But the actual therapeutic benefits are amazing as well, for clarity of mind, for retaining information, for cognition. There's lots of research being done, and this has been found. So using those as single oils in a diffuser is beautiful. However, also using the In-Tune blend as well. I don't know why I hold that up, you know what it looks like. Also using the In-Tune blend as well has lime in it. And it's honestly, it's an amazing oil to be using on a regular basis also. And it's not always easy to carry the single oils around, but carrying a roller bottle is just so much easier. So what I'd recommend for anyone, that particularly kids, teens, for example, or anyone doing SATs, things like that, university, diffuse when you're at home or when you're studying in your room, the lime and the basil. But then when you're out and about, carry the roller bottle around with you, In-Tune roller bottle, and literally apply it anytime you feel you need it. At least 3 times a day is what I say with these essential oils. Roll some in the palm of your hands, rub your hands together, Inhale 3 or 4 deep inhalations through your nose, rub it on the back of your neck, put a bit more on your hands if you need to, rub it on your shoulders and your chest area. That then will be getting instantly into your body. Inhaling it is going to get into your system within a matter of seconds, and it's going to start working on the limbic part of your brain, putting it on the back of your neck and your shoulders. You're going to start inhaling that throughout the day, and also it's massaging, so it's relaxing your neck and shoulder area as well, and you're just going to get those amazing benefits of those essential oils. And you've also got things like patchouli in there, and frankincense and Hawaiian sandalwood. That's 3, and amyris as well actually. So that's 3 oils that are known as fixatives. And again, for anyone that's done my course, you'll know that fixatives were originally used in the perfume industry. They hold things together. They hold aromas together. So they were used like in famous perfumes like Chanel No. 5 for that very reason. They make the smell last longer. But on an emotional level, they work really well at giving you that support for longer. They hold you together and just anchor you. And they're very grounding as well. So any oils that are particularly tree oils and fixatives like patchouli, like frankincense, like sandalwood, all of these are very gloopy tree resins, and they're just going to be very supporting. And these are the things we need if we're getting very het up about things like exams, or even something that's coming up that we're nervous about. That in-tune blend is just going to really focus us and really keep us more balanced and more supported, and particularly importantly, more grounded, more anchored to the ground, so that our feet can be solidly on the ground and we feel more strength within to cope with these challenges that come to us. So in closing, because I think I've gone on for quite a bit now, it's leaving 1:45. Aromatherapy is a non-regulated profession, and when I'm talking about qualifications and insurance and things like that, it's a non-regulated profession that is slowly changing. It's like a lot of things. They're bringing in a lot more acceptance of these things now. The industry is becoming more recognised in the medical field, and that's why it's being brought into a lot more hospitals and healthcare protocols and things like that. But at the moment, there's still no kind of set industry standard as such. So you don't actually have to be qualified to a certain standard in order to work with essential oils. However, it is advisable that you do hold, in my opinion, some kind of product and public liability. If you are working with people, particularly if you're making up products and giving them to people, but if you're working with people, you just want a little bit of protection, because if you give somebody the wrong thing and they have a reaction, then you're protecting yourself, and you're showing an element of professionalism as well by doing that. And also by getting some level of qualification, you're also showing responsibility and professionalism. So you're becoming more confident at working with essential oils. You're getting more information, more knowledge, and that is why I think, I'd recommend you look at a lot of regulatory bodies and a lot of awarding bodies rather, and just see out there if there's something that you want. You don't necessarily have to do it through me, do it through another company if you want, but just do a little bit of checking around and make sure that you get the information you want, and then that gives you a little bit more knowledge and therefore confidence when you're working with these oils. I think it's really important to do a consultation with people for those of you that actually want to work with individuals recommending the oils. I think it's really important that you ask them. I've got examples of consultation forms if you want to contact me, and I can give you them some advice. But I think it's really important that you just ask general things like, do they suffer from any conditions? Are they on any medication? So that then you're kind of a little bit more informed about what you're recommending to them, because as I've said originally, there's a lot of people that can have conditions that can be benefiting from using a specific oil, but that can also not really be benefiting from using a different oil. So certainly do some research, get a qualification if you want to. There is no set industry standard, so it's not by law that you have to do that, but having some kind of insurance to protect you does put you in good stead, and it just shows that professionalism. I recommend the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine, obviously, because we work with them with the courses, and if you are a member of them, then you do also get reduced insurance, and anyone that does a course through us as well gets reduced insurance through them also, and they're linked with Westminster Insurance. We're linked to Baylands, so quite well recognised insurance companies, and so I would recommend that you do that, definitely. We've got some courses coming up. We've got the emotional course again starting in April if anyone wants to enroll. We've also got the Certified Aroma Kids Practitioner course. It's also going to be rearing its head after lots and lots of people asking about it. And this is for the people who've already done courses with us. We've also got a practical aromatherapy facial and body massage day coming up, and that's at Madingley College at Cambridge University. So if any of those are of any interest, message me, email me, and I can give you more information on them. I don't know how fast I've spoken, I don't know how long I've spoken for, but I think that's me done. So let me stop sharing, Andy. And
that was absolutely brilliant.
Okay, have I stopped sharing now?
You have, yeah. Wow. I mean, you put a lot of work into that today. Because the rest of you won't know this. I spoke to Rachel this morning. I said, I haven't done anything yet, but don't worry, I'm going to get it all done today. Don't worry, it'll all be done. I thought, I'll trust you. I said, as long as it's...
Oh, you never told me that. You didn't trust me.
No, I said I trusted you. So but when it was about 29 minutes past 8 and you weren't in the room at that particular time, I've got to be honest, I was sweating slightly at that point.
Oh, I was there. Don't worry, I was there in spirit and in mind.
Well, yeah, unfortunately not in the room. Anyway, you got there. That's the most important thing. But no, it's really good. So much information. Let's have a look. We've got some questions, I think, haven't we, that have come in. So let's go through some of these. Some funny ones as well. Nigel was saying, what not to use for high blood pressure would be good, thanks.
Okay, well, my first one obviously is always going to be rosemary essential oil. That's not good for blood pressure. It depends how bad the blood pressure is. I hate these question and answer things, I really do, because I get all stressed and panicky and things like that. So I think I would say things like rosemary essential oil, any of the stimulating essential oils, try and be careful with. Obviously peppermint stimulating, but it doesn't necessarily affect blood pressure. It can actually lower blood pressure. There's a lot of oils that balance blood pressure out. So if you've got high blood pressure, it'll balance it. If you've got low blood pressure, you balance it.
Is lemon particularly good for that one?
Yeah, that off the top of my head, I'll put a list up there. My head's gone blank. I haven't been drinking, I promise.
I believe you.
It's okay, water, it's water.
You can always post that in the groups, and I can always share them between the two if necessary. Sandy Stamps is saying, what's best to use for back and neck pain if on warfarin type or blood thinner type medication?
Then I would be using something like back and neck pain. So it depends what's the cause of the back and neck pain. Obviously, one of the things, I'll give you some oils, I promise I'm not going to say this with all of them. But it depends what the cause is of it, because there could be a million and one causes. And obviously, what we want to be careful for is it's great to have these essential oils to help heal things on a very instant level, but we need to be looking at why we've got the condition, what caused the condition, you know, was it a crick neck and it's going to go back, or, you know, is it the mastoid here that needs kind of like, you know, stretching a bit. You can quite often get, if you're in the car and you jolt your neck like that, you know, to look behind you, there's something called the sternocleidomastoid that's down here, and that actually will kind of go into a spasm a little bit, and that just literally needs stretching out. So you could just stretch it out like that using something like lavender and peppermint, and that will actually relax all that tension and actually get rid of that crick neck really, really quickly. But if you've got back and neck pain and it's much more chronic, rather than acute, then you need to be looking at the cause of that, because otherwise we fall foul to treating essential oils very much like we would with a pill, where we're just going to take a pill to get rid of the pain, but we're not looking at why we've got the pain. You know, it could be there's something wrong, it could be arthritis, it could be something wrong with the spine, it could be the way that we're walking or the way we're sitting. There's a million and one different reasons. So you need to get to the kind of the
If Andy wants to put in anything in the questions while we're doing that with any more information, we can always come back to that, of course. Okay, Ruth. Okay, Ruth was saying that segment on contraindications is really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth.
Recently encountered oils to avoiding hormone-fed breast cancer. Basically, in clinical trials, lavender and frankincense stimulated the production of androgens, which is the conventional medicine was trying to switch off. I, for one, would really appreciate access to that info that flags things like this, as lavender is regarded as one of the broadest spectrum for use.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there, Ruth. And I mean, no surprise, you know, you're an absolute fountain of knowledge. You know, you're a real gem, and you're completely spot on there, because one of the worrying things is that a lot of people, you know, you mention essential oils and instantly the first oil most people think of is lavender, and actually a lot of people don't like lavender, but also lavender's not that amazing go-to for absolutely everything that people think it is. So you've got to be really, really careful. You're so right there. There's a really amazing woman, what's her last name, Dr. Rosenthal, I've forgotten her first name. She's in doTERRA and she is a GP. She might actually call herself the essential GP, I think it is.
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yeah, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I mean, I remember when she was talking through going for the test at the time and thinking she hadn't got it, then coming on and saying, actually, I have got it. And she was very, very frank and honest, and she's documented her whole journey through breast cancer diagnosis and the oils that she's used, and also how she supported herself on a functional way. So not just, you know, using the whole, you know, take a pill for an ailment, actually supporting herself, changing her lifestyle and incorporating doTERRA into that as well. So definitely recommend anybody that's kind of got clients or patients or wellness advocates who are wanting to talk about breast cancer and oils, I would recommend her site on Facebook, because she is an absolute fountain of knowledge there, way more than I could ever proclaim to be.
Brilliant. Dr. Robin Fawcett, we had a couple of people.
That's it, thank you.
Okay, Dave Williams, to everyone. Photoestrogen. How does it help men that take it? Will it help my moods?
Dave, do you want them to grow or shrink? Because when I first met my husband, I was a B cup, and he's got very big hands, and I found that very attractive. And I still ended up being a D cup. And so that's all I'll say on that one. Do you want them to increase or lessen? Phytoestrogen, help your moods. Again, there was an article that came out ages ago about this, and it was to do with young boys and essential oils and making their breasts grow. And there's still a lot of research that talks about how it's a load of rubbish. And then there's research that says, no, actually there is some truth in it. So anyone who out there, I mean, Ruth, you know, you might be able to shed some light on this. I can't shed any light on that at all. For one thing, I read one thing, for another, I read another. So both information is conflicting. I haven't got an answer to that one. So, but I'm sure your moves are very attractive, Dave. Don't worry.
Let's just leave that thought. Actually, something when you get into your mind, you just can't. Thanks for that, Dave. Really appreciate it. Okay, so we've got on here, Janet said, I asked about the menopause. Thank you, Rachel. Just received her in tune today. It's gorgeous, which is brilliant. Michelle Marshall, got 2 kids doing exams in May, June. Thanks for that information.
Oh, okay.
Pauline's asked, Pauline Blind, would you put drops of different oils in one capsule or one essential oil in each capsule?
No, different oils in one is absolutely fine. You know, put them all in one capsule. You're making a blend up. Yeah, just, you know, make a blend up, put them in. You know, it's no different to if you take LLV or any other, you know, complex endocrine, anything like that.
Brilliant. Okay, Carol said, can you give me the name of the insurance company you mentioned?
So it's through the International Practitioners of Holistic Health, and there's 2. There's Westminster Insurance, which is quite a well-renowned one. There's also Baylands that have also recognised our course now as well, and they are very much to do with nutritional therapists. There's lots of insurance companies out there. Quite a few will kind of shy away the minute you mention doTERRA because of the ingesting issue, and also because they don't sometimes recognise certain practices. But what I will say is the reason they do that isn't because they don't believe that doTERRA is pure and good and all the rest of it. It's because if we're working with somebody and if we are kind of a therapist and we're recommending we work with a client and we give them essential oils and we recommend ingesting them, for example, then if that person stops working with us and goes and uses a lesser quality essential oil or something and does it in the same way, then that's going to create problems. So it's more about the message we're giving out to people rather than the quality of our oils. That's
a good point. Good point. I think that's pretty much it. There's a few other comments on there. Yeah.
He was asking for a friend. Is that you, Deborah, maybe? Was he asking for you? Sorry, let's stop.
I just wish he was asking for a friend, to be honest. Nobody believes. Anyway, so...
blood pressure, by the way, let me just come back to that one really, really quickly. Marjoram, ylang-ylang, really good oils for blood pressure. And lavender. Lavender, marjoram, ylang-ylang. Anyone with high blood pressure, that's a perfect combination.
I need to ask a question.
Okay.
Well, this is an excellent place to finish, hopefully. Is it diffuse or diffuse? You said diffuse twice, and I thought, if I missed something, or was it just the way you say it?
Oh, well, I've never heard it say diffuse. However,
Really?
I'm Northern, so
Sorry.
maybe it's because I'm Northern, but I've always only ever heard it said diffused. In any country I've been to, it's basically been diffused. So I'm guessing it's diffused, but if you prefer saying diffuse, then go for it.
Not necessarily the most important point of the evening, but there you go. some trivia to end on there anyway.
Potato.
Well, exactly. Oh, I think somebody's asked. Oh, it's still somebody on about moves, I think. Anyway, not to worry. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate you coming.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
Certainly the work that you put in there. You can always tell, by the way, when there's great content. It started off at about high 20s, and we finished on 30 on here this evening as well. So that gives some idea. It didn't go down at all. So people were certainly really engaged. By the way, I did actually look up and I've ordered as well the Encyclopedia of Essential Oils. Thank you for your recommendation through that. And it's only about $12.99, guys. So if you do want that book, that was on Amazon. I think it's about £6. You can get it on like a download if you want it. So would highly recommend. From 200 odd pages, I think, something like that, isn't it?
It's a really good book. I was going to just mention, I know we've got to go, I'm really sorry, 2 books as well I was going to mention. Kurt Schnaubelt is really, really good. The Healing Intelligence of Essential Oils. For anybody that wants to kind of really know more about essential oils, the chemical compositions of them, the certain oils that kind of cross the blood-brain barrier more effectively if you're working with people that have got Parkinson's, things like that. And then another one, medical aromatherapy as well, by the same guy, Kurt Schnaubelt. 2 of these I would really recommend are, really good books. They're a little bit more harder reading than something like Modern Essentials, but they really go into a lot of detail. So for those of you that really enjoy the kind of like the chemical side of things and just want to know more because you just want to feel more confident when you're working with people, then I'd definitely recommend those. And you can get those really good deals on Amazon used. I got both of mine used for really good prices, a couple of pounds, I think.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, there's always second-hand ones that are out there online as well, aren't there? So.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for joining us this evening. And we will have this, of course. We've got this recorded, so it will be out tomorrow. We'll put that on both the groups. And you probably will want to watch this one again, I'm sure, because you don't speak slow. So much to get in.
I'm Northern.
No, you can't keep using that for everything.
I can. Oh, I can. And I do.
It's playing the Northern card. That's absolutely fine. So we'll be back here next Monday at 8:30, logging in from 8:15, of course. What are we going to be talking about? Haven't got the foggiest at this stage. You'll be the first to know. We will let you know, and but you can be sure there'll be plenty of information, and make sure you and your team are on here as well. So thanks everybody. If you want to unmute, that's great, or just say goodbye on the chat. Absolutely fantastic. Have a fantastic week, everybody. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, Rachel.
Bye,
Thank
lovely.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Amazing, Rachel. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Lovely to see you. Bye.